The only thing on the ballot in November is going to be the Public Service Commission for those outside the cities. Mm-hmm. So hopefully this will be a reason for them to come to the ballot box.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why this is so important. That's right. It's something that really we hope will drive people to the polls.
Ma'am, are you ready?
Oh, y'all ready?
Well, let me. Yeah, take your time, bro. Is this one Jesse's? Stick that on your lapel for the live stream.
Yeah, just check your sound, make sure it's not.
Over here.
All right.
You look a little troubled.
I'm a little tired.
She didn't plan on being up here, did you?
No.
What do you think? Okay. Sound check. Is everything good? You're good? We're good, Margie? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today on the 25th anniversary of the Stevens Day, Mueller, Jackson, Johnson & Johnson passed legislation, which made history for the homeowners. A quarter century ago, voters approved the first floating homestead exemption for Chatham County and 6 of the 8 cities. That reform ended hidden backdoor tax increases that gave homeowners certainty about their property tax bills. It also ensured that the government did not lose one single penny of revenue whenever they adopted this legislation. Now we have the opportunity to extend the same protections to our schools. This November, voters will consider House Bill 782, or the Chatham County School Tax Relief Act, also known as the Stevens, Petrie, Hitchens, Gilliard, Jackson, Watson, Mallow, and Hickman bill. If passed, this measure will add the Chatham County school system the same tax structure that eliminated cost of living escalators for homeowners and give stability. Just like before, schools will continue to receive 100% of the revenue from the previous year without losing one penny. This is about fairness, predictability, protecting the taxpayers while fully funding education. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll introduce the secondary sponsor, Jesse Petrie.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you all for being here. I've got some data here that I'm glad to share with any of you in a moment. But I'm going to come back and circle back to why we need to ensure that everybody gets out and votes for this homestead tax relief in November. But I want to begin by just giving you all a little data that I think the people of this county need to know. So first of all, you need to understand that in the last 7 years alone, okay, school expenses in Chatham County have increased by 53%. In that same time, enrollment has fallen by 5%, right at 5%. So what does that mean? It means that in 7 years, almost $250 million have increased in our school budget. To be precise, $253 million in 7 years increase. At the same time, we're educating 1,500 fewer students. Now, in that same time, by the way, if you're interested, admin costs, general administration costs have increased by 111%. Now, there's something else that a lot of people don't know. Statutory law only allows a school district to profit by 15% in a given year. What do I mean by that? To exceed their budget. If their revenues exceed their budget by 15%, by more than that, there's statutory prohibition against that. But in the last 3 years alone, they've exceeded that. So 3 years ago, by 30%. All right. So what does that mean? And indeed, recently, as our school board member here knows, an audit actually reprimanded the school district for doing so. So what does that mean? That means this year, $174 million were collected from local taxpayers beyond what the school board needed, even after that budget is increased by 53%, literally in the last 7 years. So what does all that mean? Why do I give you all that data? I give you all that data to say this. Surely surely we can all agree that homeowners have a right to a more robust homestead exemption. That's what it means. And if anybody wants this data, we vetted it very thoroughly and we're glad to share it. So we'll let others dig into why that is and to what they need to do with our local school system. But what we are all about is making sure that homeowners in Chatham County have reasonable, legitimate, and more robust tax relief. And that's why they need to get out and vote in November to do just that. My voting yes. Would you like to say anything, my dear? Yeah, please
Stephanie
do.
Campbell. I'm District 7 School Board Representative, and I am in support of this because I find that it adds predictability without shortchanging children or education at all. In fact, we can still vote if we need to raise or lower anything and get what we need from it, but we will have to vote on it. And so I'm here to support the bill and answer any questions.
Questions?
This is a piece of very bipartisan legislation. How did y'all get together and decide that this was something that needed to be implemented in Chatham County?
Thank you for the question. 25 years ago, it was also bipartisan, and the only way that it could pass, because of our close numbers, was to be bipartisan. And that's really the way it ought to be, is both sides need to get together and work this thing out. We did that from the get-go. 25 years ago, we had 3 different taxing mechanisms, which was the only way we could get it passed, even on a bipartisan level. So we had one level, which essentially froze property taxes minus the cost of living increase. It just froze property taxes without a millage rate increase. Then we had the city of Savannah and Thunderbolt, which had the standard cost of living increase added to that. And then we had the school system, which insisted on a workforce, some sort of workforce cost of living increase, which was the highest. So, God bless those folks down at the tax office to try to figure all this out. We needed to go back and fix this. There's no loss of revenue that we've found out over the past 25 years. Every dime comes back. But for the first time, this takes 2/3 of your property taxes and makes sure there's predictability for the homeowner. All the revenue is going to come back. It's going to help those folks that actually pay the taxes. So everybody got together. They saw the benefit, if you will, of standardizing this stuff. So we're taking the first of the 3 that are out of line from the rest of the county and those 6 cities, and we'll begin to treat those the same.
I might add one caveat to that. To your question, so here's what's happening locally. The growth in our area is unprecedented, right? Unprecedented growth. So homeowners, we hear, our job is to hear from the people, okay? And so what we're hearing from folks is that, I live here. I have no intention of moving. I've long lived here. But every year my taxes are going up. And that is because their valuation is increasing. And in some cases, you've heard this everywhere, exponentially so. And so their taxes keep going up. And so that feedback is really, we've got to hear that. That's what prompts most of this. And then at the same time, when you discover that literally, I don't know if y'all are aware, 49% of all of our school funds go to teachers, only 49%. Now, most people think that most of our money obviously would be going to teachers because that's basically what you're doing, right? You're teaching. It's not the case. In the state of Georgia, and certainly in Chatham County, about 49% of all of those revenues, close to $1 billion now, correct? $924 million in Chatham County alone. Less than half of that's going to teachers. So this imbalance, I think, is recognized by the people, and they want relief. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation. Stephanie? Any other questions? Yep. Oh, you want to speak to that?
No, I echo what you said.
Say amen.
Yeah, amen. I'm not sure about all the breakdown of where money goes, et cetera, but not to that degree, to the percentage. But I do think that we need to reconsider with some of the initiatives that Dr. Watts very, very astutely has pointed out that we need to focus on. We need, money to go to those areas, and this is a way to kind of get us to focus on those situations. Like the money needs to go, right? So instead of just having it be the status quo the way it always is, have someone come in and say, well, this is, how we're going to do things from now on. It's going to be more predictable, and then do with it what you will, and maybe have us rethink it, be more innovative about our approach.
Couple things. What do you attribute the $186 million increase to? What kinds of things have, over this period of time, 6-year period of time? And secondly, it's a question about the timing. With so much uncertainty at different levels of government, fed, state, local, why doesn't this put the school district in a pretty unusual situation, a difficult situation, which just about the timing?
Well, I can tell you 25 years ago, we had this very same conversation. It had never been tried before. Nobody had even thought of this concept. So the idea, so it's got a 25-year track record of people understanding that all the revenue comes back. If you do any other kind of homestead exemption, which are all laudable, they're great ideas. You can do a senior citizen exemption, disability exemption for homeowners, veterans exemption. Every one of those represents revenue that was on the books last year. So that's a loss of revenue. The beauty of this concept, and the reason it's taken over statewide, is there's not a penny loss in revenues. And we had to get by a trial period, if you will, to make sure that that was going to be the case, because we'd never done this before. This was brand new. And before we did House Bill 581, there were 65 taxing districts that copied this. Started right here.
Again, I might add to that. So first of all, let me begin by just saying, as I just described, this year alone, they were $174 million over budget in Chatham County. Okay. So we're talking about giving tax relief to homeowners who homesteaded their properties, not to every property in Chatham County, but just to homeowners. So we're $174 million over budget this year, and we were over budget last year, over budget the year before. So, but remember, there's another thing that everyone needs to recognize. Literally 50% of the state budget goes to K through 12 at the same time. And we in the legislature have no intention of doing anything to decrease funding to schools. And indeed, evidence of that is look at the past years. We have doubled down on making sure we have the highest paid teachers in the southeastern U.S., which we do. Okay, highest paid in the southeastern U.S. I love to repeat that over and over, and because it's true. And we continue to do everything to fully fund QBE. We're going to continue to do those things. And so, no, I have no. To your question, I have no concern that somehow our schools are going to suffer because we're giving people who own homes in Chatham County a little more robust tax relief on their homestead.
What do you blame the $174 million over budget?
I can tell you my opinion, and here's my opinion. To date, I think what's going on with the system here is they discover what their revenues are going to be, and they build a budget based on revenue. That's not the way you build budgets. You build a budget as a businessman. Every businessman and every family in the country knows this. You build a budget based on what your expenses are, and then you discover, well, I need revenue to meet these expenses. I don't think that's been happening, quite frankly. I think they discover, okay, this is going to be our revenue. Let's build a budget to meet this revenue. But here's what I do know. I know that you've got exponential increases, 111%, in 7 years for general administrative costs in the Chatham County school system. So I can't, I'm not an accountant, and I'm just telling you what we've discovered with the research. Somebody else is going to have to dig into that more deeply, but I think a lot of it is increases in administration, to your question.
Let me tell you the reason I believe that they've got a big portion of that money that's coming back to the school system. It hasn't got anything to do, in my opinion, of anything that they're doing. That's the beauty of the way this bill was drawn up. Understanding that your taxes are frozen as long as you stay in your home, essentially, unless there's somebody votes to raise millage. The beauty of this thing, and as I'm trying to explain it to folks, is people sell their homes every 7 years on average or so. So at that point, you start over. That revenue then starts over at a higher level, and then they're frozen. So that's where a lot of this revenue is coming back in. Is the beauty of the flexibility of the bill is, as time moves on, new homeowners move into the houses that are sold. new revenue comes in as a result of that. So it's the bill mechanism itself.
I can actually speak to some of that a little bit too. I don't think that, I wouldn't say it's necessarily nefarious. I agree with what you said about it. I think we have gotten to a place where instead of, deciding what we need and then budgeting based on what we need, we sort of do just know that we're going to have higher collections and we can still keep the millage rate the same. And it's unfortunate because the truth is that kids do cost more to educate these days. They do. Kids are, we're expected in the public school system to do a lot of things that otherwise, we wouldn't have done before. That was just simple education, right? Reading, writing, math. Kids are seen as a whole person now, which I commend, and I think it's worthy and it's worthwhile. But at the same time, right, we need the community to feel that there's stability there in what they're going to owe every year, where they don't have to compensate for our shortcomings potentially, and maybe we need to go back through. And one thing that I love about Dr. Watts and her team is that they're big on return on investment. ROI, you'll hear it all the time if you watch our board meetings. And so we're already doing the work of figuring out where we can cut and where we can, use more, less money to do more things, but mostly more effectively. And so I think this pairs well with what the vision is from my standpoint. And again, I don't think it was necessarily nefarious. I think it's just the way things went, and this is what it takes. It takes something different, someone thinking outside the box, coming up with a new bill, and hoping that things get better.
Yeah, can I say one thing to that? Because you mentioned something I should mention. I'm not blaming anybody. None of us are blaming anybody. It is indeed not nefarious. We're simply taking data and saying our goal is simply to get a yes vote on homestead protection for homeowners in this county. But the data helps us to evaluate what we need to do, and it helped us in this regard. So we're not blaming anybody. We have great friends on the school board. I have great confidence in our new superintendent and in our school board chairman, who I support strongly. So I just want to make it clear that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is kind of using the information to say, let's look at this, let's dig deeper, let's discover how we can do better, and at the same time, let's make sure that we're giving homeowners reasonable tax relief. Yep.
Any others? I would like to take just a minute, since I see the lovely Mrs. Watson over here, but whenever we pass, and I'm getting back to 581, which is our baseline that we did statewide. You've all heard about the opt-in and opt-out and all that stuff. Well, thanks to the Senate, that's Watson, Mallow, and Hickman, they put a provision in there that says that if you can do something better in your area, that it takes precedent and the homeowner gets the better value. Thanks to the senators for taking the lead and seeing these unintended consequences. This is going to be great for the homeowner, those that intend to make Savannah their home for a long time, and those who are considering coming to Savannah, because they'll have, for the first time in the largest taxing district that we've got in the school system, 2/3, and then all of these other cities, you're going to finally get some predictability that knowing that what you paid last year minus a raise in a millage is going to be the same you're going to pay next year. Anybody?
Thank you all for being here.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
As lawmakers, could you just explain to me why this mechanism has been used to raise money for schools? I mean, how we got here in the first place?
Yeah.
In other words, the
Sure.
problems which you're proposing a solution. How did we get there?
27 years ago, let me go back a little bit whenever I had black hair. 27 years ago, we had a scenario where folks were moving into the area, especially downtown, and they were paying exorbitant prices for homes, which was cheap in other areas like New York and California. But they were paying massive prices for homes that might be $100,000. They would come in and plop down $1 million for them. Well, everybody in that area was hit with an increase in tax without raising the millage rate at all because of the backdoor tax. The same thing happened in Tybee. We had folks that wanted to retire there. They couldn't retire and was actually losing their homes at the courthouse door. because somebody bought a house in the same neighborhood that was grossly overvalued, but was a deal to those guys in these other states. That's what started all of this conversation, and that's what brought it to a bill. Even though there's 3 different versions of it, if you will, it's the best possible thing that we could do for homeowners. And we were always looking for something. How do we do something that will not adversely affect these people's budgets? They got to pass the budgets just like we do. And they can't raise revenue any other way except through property taxes by and large. So we needed to help the homeowner at the same time not kill these taxing districts. This bill did it, and it was hard to sell back then. I will tell you, everybody that opposed it lost the next year, as you might recall, because it was such a big issue back then in that time. So 25 years this November, it's worked, and it's time that we standardize them all.
Actually, I'm sorry, I have one more thing. This is more of a clerical question. Should this pass, if people already have a homestead exemption that they filed with the tax commissioner's office, do they need to go and apply for this new homestead exemption, or will they automatically have it?
You've already got it. We put that in there way back 25 years ago. So this just rolls into the way that your homestead applies. So if you were to live in the county, it's flat. If you lived in the school system in the county, it's flat. In any of the 6 cities, it's flat. So essentially you're covered. And I will mention we're going to have another conference, if you will, but this very same bill, the identical bill, will be coming up in Bryan County as well at the same time. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for being here.
Yes.
Thank you very much.